Hey guys, Dr. Justin Marcagiani here. Today we're going to be talking about the pitfalls of caffeine. Is it good? Is it bad? We're going to be diving into the science and the mechanism of what's happening under the hood. Before we do, please smash that like button. Love to see your comments down below, and we'll be answering your feedback as well. So love to hear it. So first off, let's dive in. I'm going to have a little outline on screen. We'll go through in depth. Let me know if you like it. But we're going to talk about some of the pros of caffeine. I mean, caffeine is a stimulant. It does a couple of things to make you feel better, but there's also some side effects of it, and there's obviously a good dosing that may work or may not. So first off, we'll go over the pros of caffeine. We'll talk about how it can help with physical performance, improving cognitive function. We'll talk about boosting metabolism, antioxidants. We'll talk about some of the pitfalls, sleep, stress hormone. We'll talk about the gut irritation and how it can impact your neurotransmitters negatively, and how to do caffeine. And again, not all my notes will be in here, so I'm going to just go a little bit off script a little bit. So let me know if you guys like this approach. All right, so let's dive in here out of the gate. So first off, caffeine is a methylxanthine, okay? It is same thing as a theobromine. Some methylxanthines, which come from, let's say, different plant compounds. They're alkaloids. So you have theobromine in coffee. You have methylxanthine are going to be the big kind of umbrella. So methylxanthine's up here. You have your theobromines, you have your caffeine, and these are going to be your alkaloids in green tea, caffeine, coffee. These are alkaloids. A lot of good antioxidants, a lot of good compounds in here for anti-aging. But again, if you have plant issues, lectins, salicylate issues, they may be problematic for you. That's a big thing out of the gate. So caffeine does stimulate energy, right? How does it do that? So it blocks the adenosine receptor sites. So you have receptor sites for adenosine. That makes you feel tired. It makes you feel sleepy. It makes you yawn. It blocks that receptor site. So then you automatically start to feel more alert. The problem is over time, you will generate more receptor sites. And that adenosine does accumulate when it's not in the receptor site. So over time, what happens is big flood of adenosine comes back, and you can feel more tired over time. So you have to be careful, number one. So again, you have the adenosine receptor site issue. Over time, you can have a rebound effect. So you're robbing from Peter to pay Paul, if you will. Now, when we do coffee, pros of caffeine, we want to time release it. If we hit it all at once, it's going to be problematic. It's going to be overly stimulating. So we rather time release it. So it's better to be, let's just say, mixing it with fat. It could be MCT oil. It could be ghee and butter. You can do a combination of ghee, MCT, or grass-fed butter and MCT. This approach is always great because you're having good fat-soluble vitamins, vitamin A. You're having good bioflavonoids in there, or polyphenols from maybe the grass antioxidants if it's grass-fed. So there's a lot of nutrition that you're going to get in there. It's going to time release the coffee and the caffeine. If you add in collagen peptides as well, now you're having good collagen, good amino acids as well, because when you overly stimulate your body, you're going to break down amino acids. Because when you take caffeine, you're going to get an adrenaline surge, potentially maybe a little cortisol surge. If you time release it with the fat, with the protein, it's going to delay the emptying. It's going to delay that caffeine. So you have this nice magic carpet caffeine ride, if you will, versus a big rush. The analogy is taking a shot of alcohol or sipping a glass of wine over a few hours. So you can time release it and use fatty acids, fat-soluble vitamins, and amino acids and time release it. Plus, the stimulation you get from the adrenaline and the cortisol, you're going to be able to use those amino acids that you're getting into your body, so you're not going to be overly catabolic, breaking down muscle tissue and causing other problems down the road. And so it's helpful to be on top of it with the good protein, with the good fats. So improve physical performance. You're going to get more free fatty acid synthesis. So you're going to get more free fatty acids in your body. And that's going to allow an additional fuel source to be utilized. Plus, if you're adding in like MCT oil or healthy fats, now you have more reservoir for ketones, more building blocks to make ketones, which are a great fuel source because they're very stable. If you're relying on glucose or lots of carbs, that's like putting, let's just say, twigs or paper on the fire. It's going to go up and then down. And so having things like ketones and good nutrients there is going to be very helpful. We're going to get an enhanced mood and cognitive function. Why? Because we're increasing dopamine. We're increasing serotonin. Part of adrenaline and cortisol is you flood the dopamine in the brain. Now, the problem is, if you're robbing Peter to pay Paul, if you're flooding the dopamine in, but you're not adding more of it back, that's where it could be problematic. So you can always do things like more lion's mane. You could do more tyrosine. Make sure you have a good B complex with B6 because that's a cofactor. That's a rate-limiting cofactor to really help support healthy dopamine levels. And so we want to make sure we have the building blocks as well. So assuming that you have good digestion, you're eating good proteins, you're getting good sleep, it's probably not a big deal. Now, How do you know caffeine's not for you? If you really feel jittery, anxious, and you just can't shake it off, and it feels like that the whole day, that's a problem. Now, how we do my coffee is very simple. Protein, collagen, 20 grams. A tablespoon of grass-fed butter or ghee if you're sensitive, and a tablespoon of up to a tablespoon of MCT. Again, too much causes loose stool, so adjust the amount based on whether or not you have disaster pants or not, so you can adjust that accordingly. How do you feel afterwards? Do you feel good? Do you feel stable? That adenosine receptor site should be filled up. You should feel focused. And ideally, it should sustain you well into lunch because now you have this flood of ketones. Your adenosines dialed in, plus that free fatty acid and release of ketones does suppress your appetite. So it makes you really focused and you don't have a bunch of appetite issues and you're not thinking about craving or your next meal. That's big. Plus, you get that dopamine flooding across that blood-brain barrier. Now, we are boosting your metabolism via free fatty acids. We have the rich antioxidants because coffee is a methylxanthine, right? And methylxanthine is a antioxidant kind of alkaloid. And so it's rich in these different polyphenols. These are what these methylxanthines are. So very helpful. Now, you could have rebound issues. I talked about the adenosine receptor site. You block it. What happens? You get more receptor sites over time, plus you get more adenosine over time. Right? So that's why you want to consume your coffee in the first hour or two of waking, ideally. If you need it in the afternoon, switch to a green tea because you're going to get more theanine from that. And theanine is very calming and relaxing. So you get a little stimulation, but the theanine does allow the GABA to go up, so it does relax the nervous system response. But ideally, you just do it in the first hour or two. I'd much rather have you be on top of adrenal support, either adaptogenic herbs like ashwagandha or ginseng or luthero, or be on top of an adrenal glandular or some additional B vitamins or mitochondrial nutrients. Rather not have you do coffee on average and outside of the first 2 hours of being up. Again, if you have a really bad day, you can always go to it or at least do remember, decaf is it's basically 95% caffeine free. So a cup of coffee is 100 milligrams. Decaf would be 5 milligrams. And so you can always do a half calf or just do decaf because you'll still get a little bit. But again, you really want to be avoiding caffeine outside of that first 2 hours because it takes, about 8 hours. The terminal half-life of caffeine is about 10 to 12 hours. You're going to have it out of your system. So if you're having it between 7 and 9, by 10, 11 o'clock, that's 14 hours. It should mostly be out of your system by then. Again, if you're sensitive and it's impacting sleep, then you can adjust it accordingly. Okay, very good. So outside of that, so it also blocks melatonin. Why? Because when you stimulate adrenaline stimulates cortisol. Cortisol and melatonin have inverse relationships. So as cortisol goes down at night, melatonin should be going up. So our cortisol rhythm looks like this, right? We're going to have our cortisol starts up with the sun and it goes down like this throughout the day. And as it goes down, as cortisol goes down, melatonin comes up. So we have this inverse relationship. And so because of that, if we keep our cortisol prolonged, it's going to artificially suppress melatonin. So it's good to be on top of that. And of course, with the adrenaline, you are burning up more dopamine. When you're burning up more dopamine, you're probably also burning up more of the cofactors. So that's your B vitamins, calcium, magnesium, B6. So you're burning up more of those cofactors. So you really want to be on top of all the building blocks. That's why I like my keto coffee. So I'm putting in the good fats. I'm putting in the amino acids. I'm taking a good multi. I'm taking some good nutrients. So I have that for good energy production. Could cause digestive issues because if your gut lining's kind of like a little raw or you have H. pylori or a little gastritis, coffee could be a little bit hard on your stomach. But guess what? If you add collagen peptides and you add butter or ghee into that, those fatty acids buffer any of the irritation of the caffeine or the coffee or that methylxanthine. Plus you have the collagen, which is really high in glycine, and your enterocytes in your gut love glycine. So you can actually make it a superfood and you can negate a lot of the negative consequences by just time releasing with good fats, using good amino acids, and only do it in the first 2 hours of waking. And then, of course, make sure you're taking some additional nutrients like some of those good Bs because your body, when you increase that adrenaline and that increases the dopamine, you want to make sure you have the building blocks to be able to handle it. That's key. So we talked about the digestive upsets. Could lead to dependency. That's why I don't want you to do it throughout the day. I had a chemistry teacher in college, and I was at UMass. I remember the guy we had like an afternoon class, and we're sitting in, I think it was organic chemistry, and he's like, yeah, this is my 15th cup of coffee. I was like, holy smokes. And the guy was actually blind. He went blind as he was, teaching for 30 years. And I'm like, probably diabetes, probably a lot of caffeine, probably a lot of sugar. Again, I didn't know the man personally, but I'm like 15 cups of coffee is insane. Plus you're losing your eyesight because of potentially diabetes, which is the #1 cause of why someone may go blind if it's in their adult years. So again, you don't want to be overdoing caffeine. You don't want to be especially overdoing it with sugar because that's how you get the cravings, the up and down. So you want to be on top of your blood sugar. And that's why if we do the amino acids and the fatty acids with your coffee, that blood sugar stays nice and stable. Like when I test my blood sugar in the morning, I'm going to be like below 100 right after that meal for 3-4 hours. I'm going to be totally stable. So you can get a blood sugar meter like the Keto Mojo and test it, which is a great way to look at it. You know, fasting 1 hour, 2 hour, even 3 hours. And again, not below 120 in the first hour, back below 100 in hour 2, ideally, definitely below hour 3, below 100. So lead to tolerance dependency. Yeah, do too much. You do it throughout the day. Like my chemistry teacher at 15 cups, that's a problem. Do too much sugar with it. Sugar and caffeine are not a good mix because you're going to get more cravings. One begets the other. So you can take time off. I always recommend, I'll just do every now and then like a day where I just do some decaf, right? Because I love the warm kind of that blanket of, coffee in the morning. I love it. I'll even do it decaf for, 2-3 days just to be like, hey, I don't need the caffeine. I'm good. I don't need it. And I'll feel fine. I'll do great. I'll have no issues. And so just try to do that every now and then because, if you're getting 2-3 cups in the morning, that's only 15 milligrams. Where if you're doing, 3 cups at 300 milligrams, that's a big difference. So you can always adjust the dosing on that and make sure you're on top of the B vitamins. You can also add a little bit of tyrosine with it, and don't do coffee if it is making you jittery. If you do it the way I told you with the butter coffee, the keto coffee, then that should be able to limit it. But some people just have a hard time handling coffee. So if you're that person that you're doing all things I'm telling you to do, then it may not be for you. You can also try adding in like the B vitamins. Also try adding in some theanine with the coffee. Do all the fatty acids and the protein. That may allow you to be able to tolerate it better. So you can always try a couple 100 milligrams of theanine and see if that allows you to do it. If not, you can always do it with a decaf method, and that will be, 2 cups will be 10 milligrams versus 200. So that's a 95% reduction. Big one right here. Look at the diuretic, right? This is really important here. So the diuretic with coffee, you're going to pee out a lot of electrolytes, so potentially potassium, magnesium. So it's good to be hydrating throughout the day. Get like a good electrolyte mineral water, drink that so you get the extra minerals. You can also take an extra mineral, whether it's an extra potassium or magnesium. That'll help because caffeine can have that diuretic effect and that could lower your minerals. So you want to really be on top of that to ensure that you're not having side effects. All right, guys, this is Dr. J here. I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, please let me know. I'm all about giving you guys actionable information. If you have adrenal issues or hormonal issues or gut stuff and you want to dive in deeper, I see patients functional medicine-wise all over the country. If you want to reach out, there'll be a link down below. We are happy to help you out and dive in. And again, hopefully this can be something that you can utilize to see if you can get coffee in your diet or utilize it in a healthy way with no side effects. Or if it's not for you, that's fine. Hopefully I gave you a couple of tips and tricks that may allow you to adjust it so it can be back in your life. And if not, enjoy the video and work on your health. Guys, this is Dr. J here, signing out. Take care. Bye now.